Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're going to tackle a question that has really defined the last decade of finance. Are cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin just speculative hype, or are they a truly transformational technology? To figure that out, we're actually going to go back to a key 2018 report from the World Bank that laid out the core of this whole debate. Okay, so back in 2017, the price of Bitcoin just exploded. It shot up by over 1,300% to nearly $15,000. And suddenly, the whole world was paying attention. This wasn't just some market blip. It was a moment that forced everyone, from big banks to you and me, to ask a really critical question, which this report frames perfectly. Is this all just hype, or are we looking at a genuine technological transformation? So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to look at the revolutionary idea that started Bitcoin. Then we'll dig into the unexpected and pretty high costs of that idea. From there, we'll explore what might be the real game changer here, the technology beyond Bitcoin. And finally, we'll see how policymakers are trying to wrap their heads around all of it. All right, let's dive in. Let's start with the big one, the one that kicked this whole thing off, Bitcoin. When it launched way back in 2009, it came from a really radical idea. What if you could have a secure person-to-person electronic cash system that didn't need banks or governments in the middle? So what's the magic behind Bitcoin? Well, it's this thing called the blockchain. You can think of it as a digital record book. But here's the crucial difference. Instead of one person or one bank holding that book, a copy is shared across thousands of computers all over the world. This makes the record transparent, and once a transaction is added, it's basically impossible to alter. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Verifying a transaction isn't like, a bank just stamping approved. It's more like a global competition. These so-called miners are all racing using a ton of computer power to solve a really hard math problem. The first one to crack it gets to add the next block of transactions to the chain, and for their trouble, they earn a reward. This whole competitive process is called proof of work, and it's the ingenious mechanism that keeps the network secure without any central authority. Okay, but this super clever system for creating trust without a middleman, this proof of work, well, it came with some pretty serious, and I mean very real, unintended side effects. As that whole mining competition really ramped up, so did its hunger for energy. By 2018, the Bitcoin network was consuming a staggering 53 terawatt hours of electricity every year. That's more than entire countries like Switzerland or Greece. And just to give you a sense of what that actually means, the energy it took to process just a single Bitcoin transaction could power about 5 households in a developed country for a whole day. This massive environmental cost is literally built right into the system's DNA. And this right here shows a huge paradox at the heart of it all. The race for those mining rewards led to these massive, specialized computer farms, and miners started teaming up in what are called mining pools. By 2018, just 3 of these pools controlled almost half of the entire network's processing power. This concentration of power really starts to challenge Bitcoin's whole founding idea of being decentralized. Right, then you've got the whole problem of value. I mean, for something to work as everyday money, you need it to be stable, right? But Bitcoin is famous for being incredibly volatile. Its price can swing like crazy in just a single day, which makes it feel less like a currency and a lot more like a high-risk, speculative asset. And if all that wasn't enough, on top of the energy guzzling and the wild price swings, the network itself is just slow, like really slow. By its very design, it can only handle about 3 transactions per second for the entire world. To put that in perspective, a company like Visa can process thousands in that same second. It just wasn't built to handle global payments at scale. Okay, so you might be thinking, if Bitcoin is slow, chews up a ton of energy, and its price is all over the place, why is anyone still excited about this? Great question. And the answer, according to this report, is that the real revolution might not be the coin itself. It's the technology that powers it. And this is the absolute key takeaway. You have to separate the two. Bitcoin is just the first thing ever built on the blockchain. The technology itself is way more flexible. You can think of it as a secure, decentralized way to verify any kind of agreement between people. Not just money, but things like property titles, supply chain records, even voting. This tech opens the door to something that sounds like sci-fi, but it's real: smart contracts. Just imagine a normal legal contract, but instead of words on paper, the terms are written in computer code and live on the blockchain. And the best part? The contract automatically enforces itself when the conditions are met. The World Bank report gives this amazing, down-to-earth example. A farmer could buy drought insurance as a smart contract. The code is programmed to automatically pull in official weather data. If the rainfall in their area drops below a certain level that they both agreed on, boom, the contract instantly pays out to the farmer. No paperwork, no waiting, no middleman taking a cut. This could be a huge deal for people who've never had access to financial tools like this before. So, all this incredible potential for new ideas. It naturally leads us to the final piece of this whole puzzle. How are governments and regulators supposed to respond to a technology that's moving this fast? The report really lays out all the tough questions that policymakers are grappling with. Like, how do you protect consumers from scams without stifling all the innovation? What do you do about that massive environmental cost? And how can governments stop people from using it for illegal stuff while also maybe using the same technology to make their own services better, like creating land registries that can't be tampered with? So in the end, it all comes down to this really delicate balancing act. The challenge is to figure out how to cut through all the speculative hype to get to the genuinely transformational stuff, and then create rules that encourage the good while keeping the bad stuff in check. And that really leaves us with the big, still unanswered question. Is this technology going to truly disrupt the way things are and create a more decentralized world? Or will the powerful institutions we have today just find a way to absorb it to make themselves more efficient? Years after this report came out, that question is still very much up in the air. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.